Guys, today we're going to have a lot of fun because we're going to look at a knife that makes me want to commit a felony. All right, guys, another knife that's kind of out of the norm for the channel. This is the Little Evil by Work Tough Gear. This is designed by Zeke Manacho, and it's named after Jens Pulver, whose fighting name was Little Evil. This thing is listed as a fighting knife. And this is an absolute beast. All the Work Tough stuff we've seen so far has just been amazing. I got the mat out of the way because, well, I didn't want to get it dirty. This comes with a taco style Kydex sheath, but we're going to talk about that a little bit later. I wanted to look at this knife. So this is done in Bowler M2 steel, which is a steel I don't know a lot about, but the few things that I have done, and I didn't film it because it has been raining this morning, it seems to hold up. Now, this came from Scab over at Choir Boys Cutlery. Scott sent this along, and it is absolutely a monster. I did a lot of chopping and pounding and things with this, but what I've noticed is it really, really comfortable in hand. So you've got these contoured and then textured G10 handles, and this has a huge palm swell in here that just gives you an effortless grip. So you don't have to hold onto this tight. It just kind of falls into a grip. Has a big lanyard hole. With something like this, you will want that. I do advertise that I don't like lanyard holes, but on something like this, I'm going to tell you, you want a lanyard hole because you may want a lanyard in this, especially if you're doing a lot of chopping and things where it might sling out of your hands if your hands are wet. But I didn't have any problems with it. Like I said, even though it was raining, nice consistent taper down, and then it widens up here to give you that extra retention, so you don't feel like that knife is going to slide out of your hand. For as large and heavy as this knife is, it is very comfortable in hand. It's got a very good balance, really nicely balanced, tip forward like a chopper, like you would want. But the thing is, with a larger knife that has weight forward, on top of the fact that it allows you to chop a little easier, what it does is it allows you to know exactly where the tip of that knife is, which is something, if you are carrying this as a fighting knife, as a combat style knife, you want to know where the tip of that knife is so you don't have to have constant eyes on target to know where your working area is. Chopping, it just allows you to line right up on it. Now, this is not as good a chopper as a couple of the other knives that we have in from Work Tough Gear. You can get up in here and do some chopping, but that's not where the weight balance is. So it doesn't chop quite as well as, say, the JVX or the Grizzly that I've already looked at from Work Tough. But it definitely does feel good in hand. And as a fighting knife, it has got an aggressive design to it. It's got this big fuller that runs the full length of the blade. And then you've got jimping way up here. I did some cutting on some cardboard, just some cutting on cardboard, and it cuts okay, but it is a very, very thick knife. I will tell you, this is not your day-to-day, oh, I'm gonna just cut up some cardboard type of knife. This is a beast. I mean, it's a substantial chunk of steel. Hang on a second, let's get my calipers out and measure the overall blade thickness. Actually, I just looked, I don't need to. It's 0.267 in blade stock thickness. That is massively thick. But they did a really good job transitioning down to a chopping style edge on this. This is not a detail cutter at all. This is just a monster. One of the other things I really like about this handles is it's a full tang, so you've got this striking pummel back here, but the way that the finger choils are kind of just really gently sculpted in there. There's no sharp or hard edges. For as aggressive as this knife looks, in hand, there's no sharp or hard edges on that, which would be a problem if you're using this as a chopper. You don't want something that's going to be abrasive against your hand, that's going to cause wear. And you could get, I mean, if you're doing a lot of chopping with some knives, you can get some blisters in pivot points. But this is all really, really softened. Now, let's look at the sheath, because the Work Tough Gear sheaths are great. So this is a very well-fitted sheath, really good retention. It does have a little bit of a rattle, but it's got all these tie-down points. So if you wanted to lash it to gear, you could. Most of your carry systems are going to fit this, like Tech Lock, or if you were going to get some of the big loops, You could also make a sling for this. It's got a tie down. So if you have this, like if maybe you put belt loops on this and decide you're gonna belt carry it, you've got a way to attach a lanyard around your leg so it doesn't slap. One of the things that I would say is some knives, you can buy like a belt attachment system that would fit this, that would allow you to drop it down. So it's going to screw across, and then it's going to have a piece that allows you to carry that at about that height, because this is a pretty long, that's a pretty large amount of material to have up above your waistline. So if your belt loop is here, so I would recommend, if you're going to get one of these, get one of those drop down carries, and you can see them, they'll go around the knife and it would pretty much catch on that right there and allow you to carry it further down on your belt, or basically just get some loops, create some loops of some sort and carry it scout carry. Scout carry would be a good way to carry this, smaller back, but it's a very, very good sheath. All the Work Tuff gear sheaths have been good. It's got good retention. Even there's a little bit of rattle in that, and it's got a weep hole. So if you happen to get water down in it, you're able to get the water out, even though you can't take this sheath apart. Now, there are a couple minor things about this knife that I am going to point out. So it's a great, great knife, and I love the design, and Zeke really nailed it with an aggressive fighting style knife. There's a couple small things. One, the area back here, if you are chopping a lot with it, you get some rub on your hand back here. It just does. You've got a little bit of this jimping back here. As much as I like the lanyard hole, I could have done without that, and I would advise for future, I'll tell Work Tuff Gear, you know, in this video, not knocking the design, but maybe knock that edge off just a little bit more, along those jimps that are on there. You could easily do that with a Scotch-Brite reel just to soften the edges up ever so slightly, because it is in a position where it's going to rub. It's got a sharpening choil, but you can see that you're already going to be slamming in on a big knife like this. That's going to knock, you got a lot of forward momentum. It's going to chip your stones really badly. If this was my personal knife, I would take this, put it on my grinder, and I would knock this whole area out to give it a little bit more like relief from these sharp edges of here and here. And I would probably just knock that point all the way off, just clean that out and make it a little bit more flush. And then the other thing is, I would, even though it is a chopper, you can get away with a little bit thinner grind on this and still have a really good resilient cutter. Case in point, the Grizzly is a good bit thinner behind the edge than this, and it still does a really good job, and it chops and it's resilient. And I think that would do a lot more to make this a much more utilitarian design. But this is a knife, I've said it before, this knife makes me want to commit a felony. It just does. You get it and you're like, ooh, I want to do something viciously destructive with this knife. So with that being said, guys, that's just the first impressions on this. I'm going to take some testing. I have a couple of knives that I still have got to take up on the mountain with me and do some chop testing on some stuff up there, like field testing, like what I would do if I was out in the desert doing some stuff. So we'll take this one along and we'll see how it does. Not the kind of design that that's not kind of what this design was built for. This is more like a military fighting knife, but we'll see. So is it a yup or a not so far? It is just so cool. It's definitely a yup so far. It is one of the coolest looking Mad Max-esque knives I've seen in a long time. So let's turn this around. We'll do some final thoughts, and I'll send you out about your day. Guys, all these Work Tuff knives are incredibly well made. This one's a little different than the others. This has a different purpose kind of build, but you know, Zeke really has a cool design going here. Very, very few things that I found wrong with it or found problematic for me that I would change, but you know, awesome knife. Big shout out to Scab over at Choir Boys Cutlery for sending all this stuff along. I really appreciate it. We've been sharing content with each other's content, and I did the live feed with them. Go find their blade talk that we did. It was a lot of fun. Joe and Scab. So that's pretty much it on this one, guys. You know, I didn't throw an ad in, but I do have sponsors. So Coffee Brand Coffee and Tempered Trail are two of my sponsors that have discounts built into their links. Dull Strong Knives is also down there. Speaking of discounts, I have a coupon code of crazysharp, all one word, all lowercase, saves you 40% at Beyond EDC Knives, 10% at Rosecraft Blades, 10% at Fair & Forged Knife Works, and 10% at KATSU Knives. Check out KATSU Knives. They got a lot of really cool stuff. I have built a public Discord down below where you can get in. If you want to reach out to me. You can join that Discord. You can talk to me about stuff you would like to see on the channel. If you've got stuff you want to send in, there's a DM function. You can hit me up there. I have affiliate links for most of the major vendors and an Amazon store. Those all work the same way. I get a portion of it at checkout. It doesn't cost you anything extra. So if you're going to do some shopping, use those links, take the Amazon store, pin it to your browser, use it for all your Amazon shopping. And I have a membership down below. You can join the membership. I'm doing giveaways. I do exclusive content. There's a premium sharpening tutorial series and a private Discord. This month, I am giving away a $300 knife to the paying members. So guys, that's it on this one. I love you all. Keep it clean in the comment section. If it's your birthday, happy birthday. I'll see you in the next video.